Hi folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead. Today we're going to talk about some bushcraft survival ideas. And really on when you go out into the woods, just for maybe a few hours to enjoy, wherever you're at, are you going out prepared? It's a very popular thing to go out and, little hikes, little jogs, ride your bike. There's hiking trails, running trails all over out in the woods, in city parks, state parks, probably in every state. And people do it a lot, and I think it's a great thing. The problem is that most people are going out for maybe a couple of hours, and they don't really take much with them. They maybe take a bottle of water, camera, maybe a hiking stick or something like that, and that's about it. Because, you're not going to be out there very long. Well, what happens when you end up being forced to stay out there? Maybe you become injured, an animal attacks, something like that. You need to have at least a little bit of little things with you to kind of get you through a few days, just in case something happens. Now, I'm out here right now, and it's about 50 degrees, and it's been rainy and wet for days. The ground is very saturated. Most of the things around that would be burnable material are very saturated. So it would be, difficult to start a fire, but you know what? It's not too bad. I'm out here in just a t-shirt with this light jacket on, which is what most people would be doing. Maybe a hoodie, light jacket. And they don't, dress real heavy because, I'm only going to be out here for just a short amount of time. So I don't really need to, carry a lot on me and to dress in heavy layers because, hey, it's 45, 50 degrees and it's not too bad. Excuse me. The problem is the type of environment I'm in right now can be extremely dangerous. Because while it's not too bad right now, if I get wet with the wind blowing, it could get bad. And tonight, it's going to get cold enough that it will be tough staying warm in this type of weather. So this is what happens when people go out and they're not really prepared because they're only going to be out a couple of hours. And then something happens, and they get wet, and they can't keep themselves warm, and they don't have anything with them to kind of carry them over for a couple of days if something were to happen. Now, you might say, well, this is never going to happen to me. I go out, I'm good. We go out and go do our little jog in the woods or ride our bike, and we're okay. Check the news. Every year, people all over the country do the same thing and something happens. And they end up being out there for much longer than they had planned. And why the weather that I'm experiencing right now, I say is one of the most dangerous, is because it's not cold enough to really bundle up. So you don't wear that much out here. And then you get wet and you have to stay out here. And it's difficult for your body to maintain its temperature because you're wet and the temperature starts dropping. If it was really cold and there was snow on the ground, of course you're going to bundle up more. But I'm not. I'm wearing fairly light clothing out here because it's not really that cold. But it is wet, and it could rain more, and it will get colder tonight. So what happens is we put ourselves in a dangerous situation by going out in weather like this and not being prepared. So I wanted to talk about some things that you can do to prepare yourself. One of the things that I started doing years and years ago as a Boy Scout because, our motto is be prepared. Not to fall here, walking over some limbs. And we were taught that pretty much every time you go out into the woods, you need to carry at least a small survival kit with you for those what-ifs, just in case. Now, of course, the best plan is to carry a nice, good-sized pack that's got adequate gear to get you through quite a wide variety of circumstances. But not everyone wants to carry a 30, 40-pound rucksack around. So we got the idea, or it wasn't our idea, we got it in our mind that we always went out with at least a little something, a little ditty bag with a few basic things. And it's something that I still do today. If I go out walking, hunting, whatever it is, try to always carry a little something. I've shown this pouch and ones like it on this channel before, but this is something, doesn't have to be this pouch, but something this size can actually work very well for just a little survival kit that you carry with you. Now, sure, a rucksack or a larger backpack is going to be better. You're going to be able to carry more things in it. No doubt about that. The problem is that it's big and bulky. And most people that are just wanting to go out and do a little jog, hike through the woods, ride their bike, they don't want to carry a 30-pound, rucksack on their back. But something like this is small and light. You can put it on your belt and works fine. Fanny packs, something like that, works fine. Now you say, well, there's not a whole lot in there because it's small. That's true, but there is enough in here that it could keep me alive for 2 or 3 days. It could be that thing that's between me and death when I'm out here being exposed to the weather. There's stuff in here like an emergency blanket, flashlight, a few basic first aid things, bandana, some bandages. There's a small tourniquet in here. There's a Sawyer Mini for water purification and fire, and then a small knife in here. And I usually carry a knife on me, but there's also a small one in here. There's a lighter, some matches, and some chapstick. That kind of helps. You can put that on something. I can't remember if it's in here, but if not, it should be. You can take petroleum jelly, Vaseline, and put it on cotton balls. Put them in a little small container like a small medicine bottle. Put it in here, and that's good for fire starting. Something like this, excuse me, man, is really good to carry on you, and it's small. So if you're, like, well, I'm just going out to go do a little walk or jogging. There's a lot of people, they like to run in the woods. That's great. Get you outside, exercise, all that sort of stuff. And the problem is, what if you fall and break your leg? Many times, even in parks that are more maintained, cell service can be tough. You could be out there for hours or even a day or two before someone finds you. So you should always be prepared, even if it's not some kind of apocalyptic situation. That's not the only thing that you should, prepare yourself for. Even sometimes the small things can be really bad. There was a guy in the news not that long ago, just a few days ago, that fought off a mountain lion attack out in the woods. So these types of things definitely happen. And carrying something small like this can be that one thing that keeps you alive. When you come out in the woods like this, another thing that I've always kind of trained myself to do, and it doesn't matter what the reason that I'm out here for. Maybe I'm out here hunting. Maybe I'm just taking a nice little walk through the woods. Maybe you're jogging, riding a bike, scouting out things, whatever it is. I have trained myself to kind of keep my eyes open to noticing things that would become useful if I needed to use them. And it's going to be things for shelter, things for fire, water sources. Those are the things that I'm going to be looking for, because it's not like it is on TV. Surviving bushcraft survival skills, while they're, it's kind of tough, at least to start to learn and do it. But it's not like it is on TV. It's not like you can just go out here and you'll be fine and, you'll survive for a few days and then someone comes and rescues you. It's something that you need to practice. starting a fire isn't like it is on TV where you try 3 or 4 times and then all of a sudden it goes into flames. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you may spend hours just trying to get a fire started, depending on the conditions. And shelter is the same way. You don't always just happen to find that really nice dry cave that nothing is in. It doesn't always work that way. There was a rabbit standing right next to me and just ran off. So when I come out here, I'm looking for things. This is obviously a big old eastern cedar, red cedar. It's knocked down, but you know what? It wouldn't take too much to get in there and make a little bit of a shelter. So, you're looking for things that you could use as a shelter, a rock outcropping, where you could get in underneath it. A tree that's come down, whether it's cut down or fallen down. Even trees, a lot of times cedar trees that are still standing, they'll be so close together and grown all the way to the ground that you can get in and provide at least some type of shelter from the wind and rain. Utilizing what's around you in nature is a good way to get a shelter going with less work involved. Also, very important is fire. Now, I'm out here and everything's wet. It's been so wet. Many of you have experienced the same thing this winter. It has been insanely wet. So getting a fire going in this environment is going to be very difficult. Excuse me. But it is possible. Wet wood can burn. It just has to get hot enough to get where it'll burn off the water. So you need to get something started. And one of the things that I do as I'm walking around, I'm doing that as I'm speaking, I'm always looking at things that could be a good fire starter, good little pieces of tinder. And in a wet environment, it makes it definitely more difficult. But you can still find things that you can use. And let's see, one of them would be, here we go, I see it right up here. Let me duck down and get through the woods here. This is actually a good spot. Right here is a cedar tree that is dead or dying. It looks like there's a little green up in the top, but about 10 foot and then all the way down from 10 foot, it's pretty bare. Let me try to get in here. Cedar, if you live in an area and in the Ozarks, I don't know that you can go anywhere in the Ozarks and not find these juniper trees, which is what they're actually called. They're not technically a cedar, but we refer to them as eastern cedars or just cedars. These are your friend because the sap that's in them loves to burn. It'll burn almost to the point you'd think it's not just flammable but explosive at times. It's great at burning. And so the bark, if you can see here, it comes off really easy, almost like hair. You can pull it off, and this one's not completely dry, but it's definitely drier than a lot of the other trees around here. So what I would do if I'm out here walking, maybe I'm out here again hunting or just hiking through the woods, and I see something like this, I'm going to peel some of this off, and I'm going to stick it in my pocket in a dry spot on me. That's going to help it dry out a little bit more. And you can peel off quite a bit more. Also, these little limbs here, it wouldn't take too much to get them to start burning because they're quite dead and they're up off the ground. So these little, I don't know if the camera will focus on something like this, but stuff like this. And I might go through and I might break some off and stick it in my pocket, just in case I've got some fire starter out here. Now, of course, like I said, in my little survival kit, I've got some things also to help get a fire started. But doing that, looking for certain types of dead grasses that are still standing, even though they may be wet, you can kind of shake them off, stick them down in your clothes somewhere where it's dry on your body heat. And your clothes will help absorb that moisture, and it dries them out a little bit more, so they're going to be easier to get started. Once you do that, get all that little small, and when it's wet like this, it's going to take a lot more. because you got to maintain the heat with that fire enough so that the little bit bigger stuff can start drying out enough to actually burn. So you collect lots of that little stuff and you keep feeding it, and as it gets bigger you start setting the bigger stuff on it and it'll start drying it out and you will get a fire started. I do that every once in a while out here. Just come out here after it's rained and it's nasty like this and start me a fire. Why? Because you need to know how to do it. It's very important. So these are skills that you can learn when just for any time. You don't have to go to some special course. You don't have to be an ex-Eagle Scout or anything like that, or an ex-Green Beret or Army Ranger. You can just learn this stuff on your own. You can actually practice it in your backyard of just going out. Here's a downed old tree. Let me spin the camera around. See how it's up off the ground? There's about 2 foot there between the ground and the tree. You could lay some limbs over that, cover them up, some cedar branches, and you could have your little shelter right in there. Looking for stuff like that while you're out walking around. Maybe you have no intent of staying the night. You're just out here for a couple of hours to walk, hike, ride your bike. But always keep your eyes open for those types of things, because guess what? Something can happen and you would be stuck out here for hours longer, or maybe even a few days. And once night comes, it's going to be a lot more difficult for your body to maintain your body temperature in this damp environment. If it gets down to, and I don't know what the projected low for tonight is, but let's say it gets down below freezing a little bit, 27, 28 degrees. And you might say, well, that's not terribly cold. When your body's wet and you're out all night, you could die that night. Not days later, but that night you could easily die if you do not have shelter to keep you out of the wind, some type of heat source to help maintain your heat, keep you dry, and then things like the emergency blanket and stuff are going to help out. Don't worry so much right away about like food and water. You've got a few days before you really need water, and you've got several days before you need some food. So don't worry about that right away. Your immediate focus needs to be shelter and some sort of heat source, especially if it's this time of the year, fall, winter, early spring. So, look at those kinds of things. Start thinking about, just a little survival pouch. You can carry a lot in just a little thing like this that, like I said, can make the difference between life and death for you if you're out here in the woods. And be prepared when you just go out just for a little bit of time. That's where most things happen. If you were planning some expedition that you were going to be out here for days, you're going to carry lots of gear. It's when you're only planning to come out for a couple hours that it gets dangerous, because you didn't bring anything with you. All right. That's the video for today. Be prepared. Be a Boy Scout. Not these new Boy Scouts. The old-fashioned ones. Thank you all for watching, and I will catch y'all in the next video.